The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and Coat Dance Paints, and also by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everyone for your support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 113. Godslayer and Judge Dredd, with Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs, and Mike Whitaker. This show was recorded on Friday, September the 13th, 2013. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast with me, your host Neil Shuck. On today's show we're chatting about a couple of gang-style wargames. That is, wargames in which you're running a gang or a small warband of miniatures. And we're covering two completely different genres. We're looking at Godslayer, which you might surmise from its title is a fantasy skirmish game. And we're also looking at the Judge Dredd Miniatures Game, which I would hope from the name would need very little introduction at all. Now, at the start of this recording session, I was intrigued, as I hope you are, as I knew nothing about either of these systems, other than the fact that I knew that Mike had been involved in the Judge Dredd Kickstarter. I mean, and I was obviously aware of all the miniatures and stuff floating around from all the advertising on TMP and what have you. But knew nothing about the game whatsoever, and to be honest, knew even less than Godslayer other than the fact that it existed. So, a slightly different type of show today, as it's very much a case of I'm asking questions of the two mics as they explain about the various systems. So, we'll take a quick break, and when we're back we'll have about 90 minutes worth of chat on these two games.
The eagles have gone. Britain lies defenseless in a cruel world. Since the birth of our Lord, it has been 456 years. What sins have we committed to bring this punishment to Britain? I speak, of course, of the Saxons. They came as allies, but now they seek conquest. The lands of the Britons lie ravaged before them. Blood runs red in our island. We need a leader to stand against them. We need a man to bring together the Britons in common cause. We seek a Dux Britanniarum.
Right, that's enough of that. Dux Britanniarum from Two Fat Lardies. They really are very good.
I've got Mike Hobbs and Mike Whitaker with me, as I said at the top of the show. And first off, we're going to talk about Godslayer. Now, other than the fact of I've heard of the name, I know nothing about this game whatsoever. So at this point, it's like, over to you, Mr. Hobbs.
Thank you, Mr. Shuck. Okay, Godslayer. All right. Godslayer is a fairly new game. It's what I would call a boutique game, because I couldn't think of anything else to call them. And we've seen quite a few of these games recently.
What on earth is one of those?
Well, let me explain. A boutique game. Okay. To me, a boutique game is a small game. It's usually done with a handful of figures aside. It's a small sort of gang-sized game, usually with very high production value, so you get a nice glossy rule book with some nice interesting rules, and you get figures that are produced specifically for that role, or for that game, shall we say.
Yeah.
So it's sort of high-end stuff. And the Kickstarter Potter, but there's some big hitters out there. You've got games like Malifaux and Infinity, which I would class in this sort of genre. Games like Empire of the Dead, I think, fits in there quite nicely. There's Mercs, there's loads of them.
His name, Judge Dredd.
Yeah, exactly. It's that style of, it's a small game, and it's a good business concept where, a small firm can produce a game with supporting figures and attempt to get the buy-in from a community of players. Because, let's be honest, there's a lot of people out there who like the idea of getting everything from one manufacturer and having specific figures that match the concept art that's in a rule book, sort of thing. And a lot of the time with these rule books, they'll have, the majority of these rules tend to be a sort of fantasy, sci-fi, or alternate universe style game. They're not really historical games. In fact, I don't think there actually is one that's sort of a pure historical game. Maybe Dead Man's Hand, but that's about all. But yeah, the rule books will come with the fluff of the background of the universe that they're setting the game in, and they'll usually have fiction in there as well. Fiction which describes the characters, which then appear in the army list, which then appear as figures. So it all sort of brings in, and it sort of builds up this sort of universe game, which of course some people will absolutely hate because they just want to play games, but some people will like. And Godslayer is a new one of these. It came out, I think, in July, and like you say, it came from a Kickstarter.
Oh, right, okay. So when did the Kickstarter run?
Earlier this year, I think.
Oh, okay.
I literally came across it when it appeared in my gaming stall. Because I walked in and it was there in front of me, and I thought, ooh, what's that? As I do. Ooh, look, that's shiny. So I picked it, and the guys there were very keen on it, and one of the guys in the shop gave me a demo, and I sort of thought, actually, this is a pretty good game. There's some nice mechanics in here, so I picked up the rulebook.
Okay, now I suppose with a lot of these games, they're kind of aimed at small number of figures, small sort of table. So is this one of these things that it plays on like a 4 foot by 4 foot table, or maybe smaller?
Yeah, 4x4 is the standard size. The figure scale is about 32mm for a standard figure.
Oh, right, so heroic. Yes, heroic 28mm, as it's called.
Yeah, it's almost 1/48, I suppose. It's that sort of, they're more proportioned. I think.
Yes.
I think when you get the 32mm, you can get the better proportions in figures, and and the figures that they've produced, they are actually really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if they use some of the old vacuum sculptors. They've got that sort of vacuum buzz about them. Oh,
right, okay.
Yeah, so like I say, it's a fantasy game. It's set in the fantasy world, and they produce an awful lot of background for it. To give you an idea, the main rule book I think goes for about £26-27, and for that you actually get 2 books. You get a 240-page rule book, which includes all of the rules and details on the first 6 factions who are sort of detailed, and we'll come on to those in a bit. So all of the sort of types of characters that you can purchase and use in the game are all listed in the rule book. Then you also get a background book, which again is full colour, and that runs to 176 pages of just history on this universe that they've made up. So they've done quite a bit on the way on fluff. It's not just this is based in Tolkien's land. Off you go and learn about it. It's all there. So they've really spent some time building this up and building up the idea of the setting of the game. So
I've just dived onto their website. It's produced by Megalith Games.
Megalith Games, yes.
Megalith Games. Okay.
Who I think are based in Belgium or on the German border.
Right.
That's why I think there's a bit of a tie-in to possibly to Rackham.
Right. Okay.
But I could be wrong with that.
So you've got 6 factions.
So the factions that you get in there, let's do the factions first, and then we'll come back to the rules. So the factions you get, there's, like I say, it's fantasy. So you've got, first one is the Bane Brood. So they are a bunch of plague-infected beastmen who wander around the wilds, devouring people. Quite nasty. Then you've got 2 human factions. You've got the Haladines, who are basically Greeks.
They're basically Greeks, aren't they? I think so.
Yeah. Think 300, and you'll get to that sort of styly.
Yeah.
You got the Mortans, who are very Romano-based.
Oh, okay.
You then got the Nordgard, who are Dwarven. I especially like the guy with...
La, I'm not listening. I'm not listening at all.
Yeah, they've got a character who's got a beer barrel or created beer bottles strapped to his back, which I just think is a wonderful touch. And then you've got a troglodyte faction, which is sort of chaos-style faction. And then the last one is the Windfolk of Anya, which are sort of elven, but not really elven. But honestly, we all know they're elven.
They're girly elves, really.
Yeah. They're the wild folk who live in the forest. Right. But they're mortals, honestly. So those are the 6 factions, and out of those 6 factions, you've then got sub-factions that they've got. And the way the sub-factions work is each unit in the particular main faction will be tied to a sub-faction, and if your warlord is of that sub-faction, then they get to use some special rules from the warlord. So a lot of this game is about putting your army together, as you would expect with a sort of small-scale skirmish RPG-style light game. A lot of people who play it say it's very similar to War Machine and Hordes.
Oh, right, okay.
I've never played either of those games, so I can't comment. But what they say is the thing they like about it to War Machine is the fact that you can equip your characters. So in the game, your army, it's a point-based system, as we would expect with these games. And there's 3 different types of figures that you can have in your army or in your warband. You've got a warlord, obviously. You need one of those. You'll have a selection of characters, which are individual miniatures. You can usually have 1 or 2 of those in your warband of each type. And then you've got units. And this is where the game differs slightly from a lot of these sort of small boutique games, in so much that the sort of minion type figures band together into units, and they move and they fight as a unit. So, but a unit is about 6 men, possibly 8 or 9. But it small numbers.
Yeah.
You get a card for each type of character or each type of unit, and the card has the stats for that particular unit as it is normal. And on the whole, it'll list the weapons that they got and the armor they all got. However, the characters and the warlord you can equip. In fact, the warlords very rarely come with any sort of armor or weapon. You basically get to choose them from other cards which come with each faction. So you need to remember when you're putting your army together to give your warlord a sword. Otherwise, you start the game and he can't do much. So it's all about putting the army together, so you get a lot of choice, and I think that's what a lot of the War Machine people like, because in War Machine, each figure is pretty much is stuck. This is the figure, this is what he's got. In this one, you get to tweak it a little bit. You get to try different tactical options. So you basically put your units together, and then it's all scenario led. One thing that's interesting about them is the scenarios tend to be 6 turns long. And in the scenario, they're not all about just fighting. You've usually got something you've got to do to win the game. You might have to go and find an artifact or go and collect some tokens from around the board.
Yeah.
So whilst you're doing that, obviously your opponent's trying to do the same. So there will be some combat in there, but the major objective is to try and do something. So there's lots of movement, and you've only got a certain amount of time to do it. Which brings you on to the one concept about this game which I really like, which is a bit of resource management. Because you know me, I like my resource management.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, what is a saga dice if not a resource?
Exactly. Indeed, same as Chain of Command. What the Chain of Command dice, they're resources. So, in this game, at the start of each turn, each unit, each character has a number of action points allocated to him, and these are used to move, to perform combat, to cast spells, or to use tactics, because each character and each unit has a tactic or has a number of tactics that they can use during the game, which cost points. There's also some abilities that units have, which are like passive abilities, which are always they're always there. So you sort of need to know your warband really carefully. You need to prepare in this game. You need to know exactly what each character can do, and what its strengths are and what weaknesses. Let's go through a turn sequence before I jump ahead too much.
You're saying it's a bit like War Machine. I mean, does it use alternate unit activation, or?
It does, yeah.
Right.
So the way it works, the turn is split up into 2 phases. You got an initiative phase, I suppose you'd call it. And in the initiative phase, you start off by giving each of your units, you allocate them their action points. You can use little cards for that. If a spell's cast last turn, you can roll to maintain those spells. And then you roll 2d6 and go for initiative. And there's modifiers for the leadership and the number of units, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Whoever wins the initiative roll gets to decide if he wants to activate a unit first or let his opponent do it. So then you go on to the activation phase, and this is done in alternate unit activation, but there is a little twist. The player that gets the first activation can only activate 1 unit. And when you activate a unit, you decide what you want to do with it, you spend your action points, and you do everything with that figure or that unit. And then then the alternative player gets to do the same. Generally, in an activation phase, you can decide to either activate 1 individual model, or 1 unit, or 2 individual models, or 1 individual model and 1 unit. But you have to say what you're going to do at the start of that action phase.
Alright, so you can actually activate like a hero and a unit?
Yeah, at the same time. Or you can just activate 1 unit, or 1 hero, or whatever. So, with that activation, when you activate that unit, say for example you can activate your warlord. He may have 6 action points. So things you can do. Well, you might want to spend 1 action point on one of his tactics. And you can... some of these tactics you play on yourself, some you can play on another unit that's close to you, some you can play against an enemy, and it's all listed there, and they've all got points that they cost. So you decide to do that, and then you say, okay, I'm going to move. You can move generally up to 4 times in a turn. So standard human movement is 3 inches. So you can move up to 12 inches in 1 turn by using 4 action points. You also use action points in combat, and when you make an attack, the weapon will have an action point value, which is the amount of action points you need to do to use that weapon. And you can do it to perform a melee or to counter attack if you're being attacked. So you need to sort of think, well, I could rush across the board there, but if I do that, I'm going to then have maybe only one or possibly 2 action points left. And if I get attacked, I can't defend myself, because if you haven't got action points and you get attacked in melee, you can't defend yourself unless you've got action points left.
Oh, right, so it's a case of you potentially have to save action points if you're attacking an enemy model that hasn't activated this turn, because when they come to activate, if they attack you, you need to defend yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. In the same way, for example, if you were playing Saga, you'd put a dice on a defensive ability as opposed to...
Yeah. This game is all about sort of planning what you're going to do with your figures. And also, because you're taking turns and activations, it's not always best to go first, because obviously if you rush your warlord forwards, by 12 inches and burn 4 action points, and then you do something else and you only got maybe 1 left, well, he's then left in the open on his own, and it's the enemy's turn. And what's going to happen? They're just going to pile on top of him because they know that he can't fight back. So, you've on the one hand, you've got these scenarios which are sort of forcing you to rush to do stuff because you've only got a limited amount of time to do it. But on the other hand, you can't rush too much because you're going to basically open yourself up. So you need to act as a group and basically use some units to shield the hero characters. Use the hero characters to basically support and protect the other units, because the hero characters can basically spend talents or tactics and points to benefit other units. So it's quite a balancing act. There is a charge move, as we would expect, and the charge move would cost the same as a normal melee attack, but you can make a double move plus 2 inches as part of that attack. So you can basically move, on average, say 8 inches, but you've got to do it in a straight line, and you've got to end up within your melee range of the opponent, and then you can do an attack. Right. And you can't pre-measure. But that's going to be the first thing you do in that turn, or the first movement that you do. It's got to be a charge. So, yeah, you can use your actions to sort of move around objects and sort of get close to an enemy and engage them that way, because all you have to do is move up to them to engage them in combat. Or, if you're clever, you'll spend 1 turn getting yourself set up, and then the next turn charge him when he's weak. So it's quite clever. It's I kind of like that in these sort of games.
Yeah.
Like I say, so movements, it's quite simple. 3 inches per action point. Move in any direction, change your facing as you wish, or you can do a charge move, which is the dash in a straight line, but it's the only thing you can really do. And if you don't measure it properly and you don't get into combat, you've basically wasted that turn because you can't do anything else.
Okay. Now, I've seen they have, in fact, they have got some mounted models, like, for example, this Dwarven faction has a mounted Valkyrie. Yeah,
and this is one of the sub-factions. So the sub-factions are not always of the same sort of race as the main faction. So as you say, the sub-faction for the dwarves it's sort of Viking-esque. So I think the Nordguard are basically they're taking the sort of Viking mythos, shall we say, and incorporating that into a faction. Similar with the Greeks, they're using sort of Greek mythos and bringing in Amazons and things like that.
Yeah.
The Romano, the Mortans, are basically they have sort of they use the undead and they use zombies and things because they basically worship those who have gone before us, shall we say. So there's, they have done a bit to sort of not just say this is a Dwarven faction, off you go. There's a lot of interesting stuff being piled into there, and they're bringing in different mythoses into this whole sort of universe that they've created, which is quite nice, I think. It gives you a chance to have a bit of a balanced sort of a balanced force.
Okay, so how does combat work then?
Combat is nice and easy. Actually quite similar to Judge Dredd, which we're going to chat about in a bit. Opposed rolls, shall we say.
Right.
So there's no charts or anything. Each weapon has a range, and all you have to do to get into combat is to get into that range. You can't fight through another figure. So combat is done figure by figure, and you've got to be able to draw a line of sight from your base to your enemy base without passing over the base of another unit.
Oh, so if you're talking about range, that basically means then that introduces things such as a spear has a bigger range than a sword, then, sort of thing.
Exactly. So the Paladin faction are armed with swords which have a range of 2 inches. most of the other sort of hand weapons have a range of an inch. So you can, with the Greeky ones, move up to 2 inches away, or just under 2 inches away from an enemy, and jab at him with a spear, knowing that he can't attack you back until he activates and moves his figure into range.
Right, okay.
So, combat. So you basically pair off, and you go for the melee procedure. And as with anything, there's lots of different variables that you can drop in depending on the type of weapon you've got, spells that are being cast, tactics that you've got, or abilities. But generally, it's a 2d6 roll. You roll 2d6, you add the melee value of your figure, and you compare that against the enemy's defense value. And if your roll is equal to or greater, you've caused a hit. It's as simple as that. So, to give you an example, say you've got, say you're attacking a unit, who's got a defense value of 13, and you've got a melee value of 7. That means you need to roll 6 or more on 2d6 to score more, greater to or more than 13. That makes sense?
Got it. Yeah.
If you do that, you get a hit. And then you basically roll for damage. And that again is 2d6. You add the weapon's power value. So a weapon's power value might be 3. So you roll your 2d6, you add on, for example, 3. Say you roll 8 and you add on for that 3, so that gives you 11. And then you compare that to the enemy's armor value. And say they have an armor of 7. Well, that means you've done 4 more than their armor value, and those 4 points are taken off their wound allocation. And a normal figure would have a wound allocation of, say, about 10. So it's basically straight off, bang, bang, bang. And for the characters and for the warlords, they have a level where they're fine, but if they get to sort of 4 or 5 wounds left, they then start moving into critical areas and they start slowing down and they can't attack as much because they're quite heavily wounded. So that is actually quite similar to a few different systems I've seen. Freebooters Fate uses a similar thing. But it works. It's really, really quick. It flows really well. There's no charts. You know, it's literally 2d6, couple of pluses, couple of minuses. Have I beaten you? Yes, I have. Bosh. A similar system for shooting, and a similar sort of system for casting spells as well. You use an action points to cast these spells. The spells will have an effect. There might be a combat effect against something, or it'll give you a benefit. So, again, this whole game is all around about, using the abilities for that faction that you've bought, to actually do what you need to do in the scenario. And, each faction will play completely differently. Some are really tanky. Some have got lots of heavy infantry. The dwarves, as you would expect, move slowly, but they'll walk hard. The elvish one, very light-footed, very good skirmishers, lots of melee, lots of combat weapons, lots of shooting weapons. It's a game where you need to, like Sargi, you need to play it to the faction. You can't just take a faction and try and bend it to the way you want to play.
Yeah.
Obviously, morale is encouraged. You've got bravery test, fear, horror, and there's a similar thing. It's all around this sort of leadership roll 2d6, try and get over leadership value with various modifiers. If you do it, you pass. If you don't, you fail, and something happens.
Right. Okay. Just quickly going back to the combat for a second. Mm-hmm. Notice that you got unit cards and what have you. So if you're marking off wounds, do you mark these off on the unit card or?
Yeah.
Or oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Which is very, very similar to War Machine.
Yeah. I mean the cards come sort of partly laminated, but most people just put them into a card protector.
And then just use a dry white pen.
Yeah.
Usual
stuff. I mean units with the characters and warlords, they'll have about sort of 10 wounds, and you've got your critical level when you get sort of quite low. With units, each figure has a number of wounds, and when that figure's wounds are taken, he's just dead. So each figure might have sort of 5 wounds. But what it does mean is when you attack, you attack against a figure. So if you rush a unit of 6 figures against a single warlord, all of those 6 figures have been activated, and all those 6 figures will make an attack against that warlord. But the warlord, he can only attack back if he's got activation points to do a counter attack, and he'll only attack back against one of those figures because he's only got one attack.
Yeah.
So units they are quite tough, but individually they can be taken down, which is the way it should be. It's quite well balanced, I think, this game.
So with the scenarios and most things taking 6 turns or so an average game takes what, hour and a half, 2 hours?
About an hour, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think they've done a tournament pack, and they're for like a 300-point army, which is about standard size army. It gives you about 12 figures or so. They reckon each game would take an hour and a half. The people I was talking to in the club reckon you'll do in about an hour. It is that quick.
Right. Okay.
Because there's only so much you can do in the turn, and most games you'll have 4, possibly 5 distinct units. So there's only so many you can activate at a time. There's only so much you can do with them, and the combat and all of those mechanisms are really, really straightforward. Because it is, there's no flicking through charts. It is just a case of this is your golden figure. Try and roll over that, and off you go. 2d6, bang. So scenarios. There's eight in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Each has sort of set up special rules and victory conditions for it. And like I say, they make you do things. You may have to go and sort of hunt down things, or you may have to sort of hold a piece of terrain for a certain amount of time, and that sort of stuff. But it's all written into the scenario. Mm-hmm. One thing it hasn't got is a campaign system.
Oh, okay. Which
I thought was, I would have thought it would have been in there, but no, it's not in there. There is talk of them doing one though.
Yeah.
So
what attracted you to buy it in the first place?
I think the thing that attracted me mainly is the fact I don't play much fantasy, and I always fancied doing a bit of fantasy, and that's why I wanted to get into Songs of Blades and Heroes. Because I just fancied, I didn't want to do a big fantasy battle game, because, well, there's not many of them, and the one that is out there I don't really like that much. I've never really fancied War Machine or Hordes. And I just looked and I thought, it's only a half a dozen figures, and they do starter packs, and I actually bought a starter pack first of all.
Oh, right, okay. So what sort of thing to get in the starter pack then? Is it like Warlord, Hero, and one unit?
Yeah. So the starter packs are usually about 35 quid.
Mm-hmm.
And in that you will get, it's 160 point army, which is about just over half the size of what you would normally play with. But it's a good size, it'll do you for half an hour game to try it out.
Yeah.
And as you said, you will get a warlord, you will get one character, and you will get one unit. So the Mortan box I got has got 6 legionary, I think they're called. Can you guess what they are? 6 of those, one character called the Preceptor, and then you've got your Centurion, who's your leader.
Yeah.
You get all of the cards for that. You get the cards for the armor, the weapon, the different types of swords, the potions that they can use, or the warlords can use. You get the quick start rulebook, which is very nice. So it's a little A5 rulebook, which goes through the basic rules. It's enough to get you going and give you a taste of how the mechanics work.
Right, okay. So it's similar in a lot of ways to say when you say you don't play War Machine, but when War Machine first came out, you got enough for a starter faction and a basic set of rules for you to get going with the models you got, but it was only just the basics. Really, you had to look at getting the main rule book to fully appreciate and get them, and get the full benefit out of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, of course, good sound business sense if you're trying to sell figures and rules.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, it gets you in. And okay, some people might come and go, 36 quid for 8. I've got 8 figures, but they're big, chunky figures. They're and they're beautiful. It is, but I sort of look at it as a game in a box. That gets me into a game. and it did. I got it. I went down to Firestorm, and Ben there, who's one of the guys there, who's really keen, sat me down for an hour and went through the rules with me. And I literally played it. I thought, this has got a lot of nice mechanics in it. The whole sort of resource management style of it, and the way the sort of amount of thought you need to put into creating a fairly balanced force. I just went and bought the whole rule book, sort of all 400 pages of the rule book, which was £27.
Which all things considered, isn't too bad as far as the prices. I must admit, I was looking on the Megalith website, and I know this is something we always clash on, and we have different opinions on, but they're pricey.
They are, yeah.
And funny, it's quite funny you talking about something like Rackham, for example, because it reminds me. Even back in the day. They were beautiful figures, but Rackham figures were quite pricey, even back then. And you look at, like, for example, I was looking at the Hill Ogres for the Halidine faction. Okay, they're 45 mil figures, but there's 3 of them, and its recommended price is €40. That's a fair watch.
Yeah, it is.
And they haven't even got the excuse that they're paying somebody licensing money.
No, but they still have to get them sculpted and produced. At the end of the day, it's...
But having said that, I suppose it's one of those things with this sort of game. Yeah. A lot of this style of warband game have your average single figure will cost in excess of £5 a piece.
If you're lucky, yeah. A lot of them are coming up about £10. And I get you. I know that they're really pricey, but to me these are sort of higher end figures. These are not just your standard line infantry figures that sculptors can just produce out in mass. These are all bespoke castings. There's no reuse in those figures. They haven't just used one dolly and done a head swap, which is a cheap way of doing it. So it's going to cost them, quite a bit to get these sculpted. Yeah. And if by selling at that cost, well, that's what they're going to last. That's what they're going to either perish on, or they're going to survive. It maybe isn't what we think of them as being too expensive. It's what the rest of the people who want to play this game think, and it's what the market will absorb.
Well, this is it. I suppose it's a case of I'm somebody who got out of the GW rat race a while ago, and so just refused to pay anything like standard GW prices, and when you look at what their models are going for these days, actually this isn't so bad.
I was quite surprised when I played the game. I was quite surprised how much I liked it, because I thought it would just be there's a lot of these games. Let's be honest, there are an awful lot of this style game out there.
Yeah, and they are fundamentally vehicles to shift figures.
They are, and I don't see it as a bad thing. If I'm being honest,
no, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying you do have to go in there appreciating that is the name of the game.
And some of them are not that great. Again, thinking back in the day, you look at Confrontation that Rackham produced, and boy, that was a weird set of rules.
Yeah. Oh, there are some very weird rules out there, but usually these sort of games, they have quite innovative rules, and this one did appeal to me. I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, it kind of varies, because you do run the risk that, in fact, they're a set of rules designed by a figure manufacturer, not a rules designer, if you're not careful.
Yeah. I think these are... I don't know, these feel like a set of rules that somebody has spent a lot of time on. He's picked up some things, I think, from other sets of rules, but he's brought it together quite nicely, and it plays really well, and it is tactical. Mm-hmm. The guys I was speaking to, they're all sort of horse players. They just love the game because they basically call it hordes on speed, because it's the first time they've played Horde style game where they're able to build their army the way that they want to build the army. They're not stuck with this is the figure, this is how it will be used.
Right.
They've got the ability to to tweak and dictate how their warband is put together. And like you say, the hill ogres, yep, they're 40 quid. You don't need them in do you need them in your army? Somebody who's reading the rules will look at them and go, yep, they're really useful. If I match them up with another set, that's great. That'll give me this tactic. So they go and buy it. I think what all these games do is they try and build a community of people who want to play the game, and maybe it's the I'm going to sound really old now, but maybe it's the younger generation who will play these games and will buy into them and will spend the money. And the people I've met on the club have basically the guys there who bought every single figure that's come out, and they're clamouring for more. They're basically moaning because they haven't got the third wave out yet.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting when you consider that if it's anything like Judge Dredd, for example, your base outlay for a force is half a dozen figures.
Yeah, and this one is probably a bit more. You're looking at about a dozen. You will be looking at 4, possibly 5 units at the most, and that'll do you a big game. So, you do tend to sort of look at the units because you've got the rulebook, you can work out what they are, and you think, what do I need to build upon this core force I've got? Do I get myself a sort of priestess figure which costs how much is the priestess figure? $10. Oh, sorry, €10. Which can be used to support other units, or do I go for a heavy tank unit like the Hill Ogres? It's horses for courses. People like us will probably turn around and go, I'll probably go for the cheaper one first, and then make sure I really like the game. Other people might go, well, if I buy one of everything, then I'll be okay.
Yes, of course, then you buy one of everything in every faction.
Yeah.
Just so you got variety.
So you got the variety, yeah.
Yes, and just in case there's nobody else who plays it down the club, so at least you can always have somebody to play with.
Oh yeah, you have to buy two armies, don't you?
Yes. Which other army did you buy, Mike?
I bought the Bane Blood, what are they called? The
okay.
Yeah, the Bane Brood.
Just the 2 then?
Just the 2, yeah.
Honest.
Well, in fact, I got the second faction half price because the guys on the club, one of them was in a Kickstarter, had duplicates, and came to me yesterday when I was on the club and went, we were chatting yesterday when I was having the demo game, and he basically went, do you want these for 15 quid? I went, yes, please. So I've got all the figures and all the cards.
That'd be rude not to.
Yeah, it would be.
Yes.
So yeah. I mean, one good thing about it.
I was going to say, is there anything bad about it? I mean, is there anything you don't like about this game?
One thing I don't like, the cards are quite dark and the writing is quite small. Now, I've got 20/20 vision, and I find it difficult to read these cards.
I'm going to hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, because
small light text on dark backgrounds is one of my major bugbears.
Yeah, well, what's even worse is when you got small dark text on a dark background. So that's one thing I don't like.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's designed so you can't read it.
Yeah, it's almost designed so you can't read it. You have to pick it up. And like I said, I had an eye test a while ago, and I've got over 20/20 vision. My vision is brilliant, and yeah, I'm sometimes struggling with some of this stuff. So I don't like that. However, all of the rules are in the book, which is quite good. So you can actually proxy with this game because every stat that's on these cards is also in the rule book.
Oh well, that's something, because an awful lot of these games you have to have the card from the figure pack, otherwise not everything is included. Yeah, there's So that's not too bad, I suppose.
Yeah. So I mean, you said there you photocopy a couple of pages, print them out, and away you go. I think that, like I said, the speed of the releases is causing concern with some of the people I've spoken to, but I don't think it's all that bad. I think they've got about 50% of the figures out so far, and I think the official release for this was in July. which isn't bad, but they are making sure that all of the Kickstarters get their figures before they go on general sale.
Well, that's something.
Which is good.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, I mean, there's not much I don't like about them. I mean, possibly, I hate to say it, but possibly the cost. That's probably the only thing that's holding me back from buying lots of it. So I'm getting 2 basic forces, and I'm going to play a few games first. Go down the club and just have a couple of games. And then maybe I'll just build up some, I'll get the odd unit just to build up. It's not when I'm not frothing over it thinking I've got to buy every single thing, like I have done for Judge Dredd. But it's a good game, and I can see me, playing this down the club, especially now I've sort of joined a new club where they actually play these sort of games.
Yeah.
Always useful, and it's quite handy because, you can put it into a small box, hour dozen figures, turn up, there's a train down there, there's somebody else, and you can get a game in for half an hour or so.
And as you say, this is where these sort of games score, isn't it? It's small armies, not a massive amount of playing time. Away you go.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these games, I mean, there's 4 of these types of games which I really like. There's this one, Judge Dredd, which we're going to talk about in a minute, Freebooter's Fate, which I don't think we've ever covered on here, but is a fantastic game, and Empire of the Dead. And in all of them, I've got a little KR multi-case which holds 18 figures. I can just chuck my figures in there, check my rolls, any other little bits and bobs in a small bag, go to the club or sing in the back of the car, and I can play any one of those games.
Indeed, because especially things like Empire of the Dead, of course, we've only bought one faction each for that, haven't we?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Coming soon.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's how they work. I mean, Freebooters, again, it's Vernicock sculpting. Beautiful sculpts. I mean, the guy's just a genius. These sculpts aren't up to the quality of Vernicock, I've got to say. But they are good sculpts. They're very detailed. They're nice proportioned, interesting figures. The metal is unusual. They've gone for a cheaper type of metal. Cheaper metal usually means it's got a higher lead content to future content. So
it's well bendy.
It's very bendy. Yeah. Yes. So it's the darker metal, which it's cheaper to buy, but it weighs more. So a lot of the high end manufacturers will tend to go for a better quality pewter. It's got nothing to do with the detail, although pewter does flow up better, I think, in the moulds. Although you need to speak to somebody who does mould casting to discuss that. But I think it flows better, it's lighter, but it's more expensive. So it's cheaper to post, but it's more expensive to buy in. So it's horses for courses. But they have gone for I would say, slightly cheaper metal, which did surprise me because I thought everything else is high quality. Why did they go for that metal? But maybe it's just economics, or maybe it's just the firm that they've gone for the production. I don't know.
All right, so it's one of these things that potentially in the unit pack, you're going to open the unit pack, and the first thing you have to do is straighten your weapons out and stuff.
I haven't had that problem, must admit. They're very well packaged. They come in sort of nice sort of fold-over box, lots of foam. Every figure is sort of covered in foam in its own little bag, and then you've got all the counters and stuff on top. So it's very well packaged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've had no breakages at all, nothing bends. But because it is the cheaper metal, you can actually bend it straight, which is nice. Well, as you say, hearing that.
Yes, indeed. As soon as you hear it, you kind of go, oh, what have I just done?
Yeah. And also, weirdly enough, it tends to glue easier because it's got, I think it's because it's got the lead in it. It seems to, maybe it's more porous and it just holds, you get a better contact with the super glue.
Right.
So there we go. That's Godslayer. Like I say, it's an interesting game. Practically really good. Interesting. It is on, shall we say, more premium pricing. But if you're into fantasy games and you want something to try, I would recommend it.
Yeah. So it's available online from Megalith, but by the sound of things, it's one of these. It's one of these games that should be available at your friendly local game store. Yeah?
I'm sure it'll be available. I mean, I happen to know of one friendly neighbourhood game store in Cardiff that has a lot of this stuff. But they can't keep up with it. It's flying out in Cardiff. There's about a dozen very keen players who are buying everything that comes in. So they actually have trouble keeping it on the shelves. which has surprised me.
But at least, especially with you now going to this other club, at least it means you have a dozen opponents.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Oh, well, and to say, half the time this thing is about building gaming groups, isn't it? Building a group of guys who can all play together. So that's good.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Well, thanks for that, Mike. Well, what we'll do, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about all things Judge Dredd. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is very happy to be sponsored by Coat d'Arms Paints. Now, Coat d'Arms have been supporting miniatures painters with their products for well over 20 years in some way, shape or form. Their current range is 150 sets of acrylic paint, which are available both as individual colours, but also in paint sets depending on period. Things such as the Ancients paint set, the World War II German, World War II American, World War II Russian paint sets, and they also include things like an ACW set and even a Horsetown set. That's one way to purchase your paints. And they also do triads. Now, if you're a fan of the 3-colour system, made famous by the likes of people like Kevin Dallimore, you may like to purchase your paints with a dark shade, a medium shade and a highlight. And the triad system from Coat d'Arms allows you to do this. They also have ranges of textured paints called Brushscape, which allow you to paint from textures onto bases as well as colour. And these are ideal especially for smaller scale models. And if you're a fan of the dip method of painting, then Coat d'Arms have their own product available called Super Shader. This is available in light brown, dark brown and black. Coat d'Arms Paints have a whole range of products available to try. Check them out at www.blackhat.co.uk and be sure to tell them that we sent you. A couple of shows ago, the two Mikes kind of teased us with the fact that over the summer they've been playing Judge Dredd. In fact, Mr. Whitaker was involved in a campaign of Judge Dredd and was having a campaign day, and obviously it transpired that Mr. Hobbs had been purchasing the odd figure or three. So we thought we'd put you out of your misery and discuss all things Judge Dredd. So, again, this is a game I know, well, other than seeing the old announcement on the web, I know very little about. So I'm going to have to put you back into the very capable hands of Mike and Mike. And I believe, Mr. Whitaker, you're batting first on this one, is that correct?
I believe so, yes. I have a suspicion that Mike has more figures than I have, and I've played it more than he has.
Yeah, which means I'm going to listen very intently and try and pick up some tactics.
Right, well, it's the Judge Dredd Miniatures Game, which is pretty much, I guess, does what it says on the tin. If you grew up with 2000 AD, like I did, I suspect both of you guys did, you will know what to expect from the setting. If you didn't, why not? But essentially, it's I don't know, what are we calling it? A boutique?
I'm having a second childhood. I'll just point that out.
Oh, really?
I didn't do 2000 AD first time round.
Oh, really? Gosh. It's what I think Mike called about half an hour ago a boutique game. It's RPG light. It's a handful of figures skirmish game in effectively 28mm. There are a range of figures that go with it produced by Mongoose, who actually produced the game, who've just sorted themselves out a partnership with Warlord, which I think fundamentally ensures that they can get on with the sculpting and Warlord can get on with the heavy lifting. On top of that, of course, there is Foundry's range, which goes back quite a way, and I think slightly smaller. And if you're being really cheeky, things like the HeroClix, actually are almost the right scale to work with it. And there's for a while, there were things that you could get in Hero Clicks that you couldn't actually get in either of the figure ranges. But that's
okay.
They were the only source of Dark Judges at one point, which was quite fun. However, the game itself, it's designed to give you the flavour of the comics. So it's a very violent game in the sense that at very low levels, it's very, very bloody and can be over very, very quick. But it does scale. The campaign system has a very D&D looking level table in it. As you go up, you get more hit points and more skills. And it's kind of like D&D in that it almost plays better at mid-level. If you're a D&D classic era D&D gamer, I always thought D&D played best about 6th or 7th level when you started to get to the point where orcs wouldn't blow you away with a single hit.
Yes, and you actually had more than one spell.
Exactly. Yes. Pretty much this is where Judge Dredd comes into its own. But it is a nice, simple system. It's dead easy to pick up. We had the tournament we had last Saturday. The winner on the judges' side never played the game before. Which is kind of embarrassing for the rest of us playing judges.
Maybe you'd like me to edit that bit out.
No. It's a bit too late now. It's up on the website. Your core character has 5 a dozen basic stats. You've got move. Your basic move is 5 inches. Then you have agility, shoot, melee, and will, all of which are effectively modifiers to a skill roll. You have armor, which if you have any, is a modifier to your ability to survive being shot at. You have hit points, and you have melee dice, which I'll come on to later. It's old school I go, you go. In the absolutely traditional way, you move all yours, they move all theirs, repeat. Rich Clark, hey. But, having said that, it does work. In your phase, you move all your figures. Each figure gets 2 actions, which can be move actions, shoot actions, or special actions. Move action, you basically move your move with possible modifications for terrain and trying to do silly things. Shoot actions, you shoot, and special actions are for things like aiming a complex weapon, jumping out of a window, that kind of thing.
Okay, so can you do 2 move actions or 2 shoot actions?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So you can sit there and blaze away if you want. What you can't do, which does make for interesting tactics, is you can't move and fire and then hide. Unless you have a particular skill which allows you to... There's some characters, the crazy old surfers have a skill which allows them to effectively move and shoot and keep moving. But fundamentally, you have to start thinking about your use of cover, where you want to end up, whether you want to shoot and then dive for cover, whether you want to move out so you can get a shot, take a shot and hope that the other guy isn't going to kill you first, kind of thing. It's a very simple system. It's all done on D10s, which is a bit different.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
Skill checks, you roll a D10, you add the stat in question. So if you want to make an agility check, you roll D10, add your agility. You need more than 6. So if your agility is plus 0, that's a straight 50-50 chance. And your base street punk will have 0 in all its skill, all its stats. So its agility checks on a 50-50. Your average judge starts off with 1 in each, and so on and so forth. There's also, should note, there are 2 classes of characters. There are heroes who actually can go up levels in the campaign game, and minions who can't. And fundamentally, they just hang around. If your minion survives 5 games in the campaign game, then he can become a hero and start acquiring levels. But
other than that, he's a red shirt.
Absolutely. Right. And usefully, when it comes to the campaign game, if he dies, you don't have to pay for him. So that's movement and skill rolls. Combat, shoot actions. I mean, everything in Judge Dredd, with a few exceptions, is all about the guns. I mean, you've got the Judge Lawgiver, and you've got all kinds of random variants on things with a trigger, basically. Guns have a range, they have shooting dice, they have damage, and they have an armor-piercing modifier. and effectively, if you're within range, you can shoot. You can take a shoot action. You roll as many shooting dice as the weapon's shooting dice score. Your target rolls 1 dice and adds his agility and any cover mods. You add your shooting mods, and every dice of yours that beats one of his is a hit. So if I,
right, so it is an opposed roll mechanic.
It's an opposed roll. So if I say I'm firing something, if I've got shoot skill of 2 and I'm firing a Judge's Lawgiver that does 3 dice, and say I roll total rolls 7, 10, and 11, and you roll an agility check that works out as a 9, I do 2 hits.
Right. Okay. Well, that seems fairly standard, elegant, and
It's fairly simple. And then if you have armor, you roll an armor check, which is for every hit. Every hit, you roll a dice and add your armor score, and subtract any armor piercing score that the weapon's firing at you has. Any roll of more than 10 saves the hit. Any roll of 10 or less, and you take the damage score of the weapon. So it's perfectly possible with standard execution rounds in a Lawgiver, which does 3 dice, each 3 dice of shooting, each doing 2 damage. If they mess all their armor saves, and you hit with all 3, you can do someone 6 points of damage, which is going to kill anything to about level 5.
Oh, okay.
So this is why I say it gets very bloody at low levels.
Okay, so at low levels then, so what is your average number of hit points at, say, level... Well, at low levels.
2. Just 2.
If
One
you're lucky,
or 2.
it's 2. Yeah.
1 or 2. Judges get 2. Quite a lot of the other hero types get 1. Minions get 1. You can buy skills which will up your starting hit points, and of course, every time you go up a level, every alternate level you go up, you get another hit, which is very D&D like in that sense. So when you get to about level 6, you're on 6-7 hits, and there are very few weapons in the game that will take you out in one shot.
Right.
At which point it becomes just a little bit more. It becomes a little bit more complex, a little bit more involved. It's not just bang, 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 bang. The first set of rounds in the campaign we had, where everybody was basically fighting a force which is fundamentally level 1. Most of the games are lasting 45 minutes. Currently, campaign games are lasting 2 hours. Because we're all now up to level 5, 6, 7. I think Rob's hero is up to about level 9, and but he's playing a lone vigilante, which means all his experience spend goes on pretty much on the one character and some minor accessories. Whereas I'm running a team of judges, which means I'm trying to put levels on all my judges.
Okay, so going back a little bit, because it's something we haven't discussed. Okay, so we talked about the fact that, it's probably half a dozen figures aside. Discuss, Mr. Hobbs.
I know that my tournament force last week was 2.
Right, okay.
It was a judge and another judge on a bike.
What size table does this play on? Is this a 4x4? Is it a 6x4 or what?
Well, the basic scenario at the back of the rulebook is designed for roughly a 4x4. They're all they're sort of things like terrain grab table quarters. There's an objective in the middle that one of you is trying to blow up.
So how do you play on that size table with 2 figures?
It works remarkably well, actually. You spend a lot of time using cover.
Okay, so typically, what's the average weapon range then?
Lawgiver is 18 inches, which is standard judge weapon. There are a couple of things like laser rifles with ranges of 48 inches. And this is actually another of the reasons why I tend to advocate that you start with slightly higher level forces. There's one scenario in the rulebook that is basically the winner is the person who first wastes the opponent's highest XP character. I had one of those scenarios in the campaign, which lasted 1 round, as Adrian's robot with a laser rifle picked off my top judge with his first shot.
Oh, really fun game then.
Yes. I think it's, to be honest, it's the only real shortcoming, because it's got this experience gaining, leveling up thing. At very low levels, it's very, very lethal. which fair's fair if you're going to play at that. It's not unlike the comics, except your judges do tend to get wasted slightly more often than you might possibly want. The campaign system, though, is quite good. It does have so your character got reduced to 0 hits, what happened to it section, which is quite nice. You roll basically...
Yeah, but the standard thing is going to need that a lot.
Yeah. At low level, yes.
You need lots of terrain.
You need lots of terrain. This is the other thing. It doesn't work on open battlefields. We have some absolutely fantastic stuff that Rob, our secretary, picked up from a bunch called WorldWorks games, which is PDFs that you print out.
Oh, yeah, they are really nice. Yeah.
And he has, if anybody's looking at my blog, if you look for the Judge Dredd tag, you will see some of that. We have basically a 4x4 city block, which looks absolutely fantastic and very comic-like.
It looks lovely, I must admit.
Look away, Mr. Hobbs, look away.
It's dirt cheap, except for the fact that it is going to cost you 2 sets of ink cartridges, an awful lot of paper, and a fair bit of foam board.
And time, yeah.
And time. I know it took Rob forever, but it looks absolutely super. We've also got some of the, which work quite well, the Gale Force 9 Gothic Ruins, which we use for the Undercity. We use some sort of deserty terrain for the Cursed Earth, but you really, really need cover. It's not it's really not designed. It's not that kind of game. It's not a big open field kind of game.
No, I must admit, in the games I've played, I've got a bunch of shacks from a film called Pardulan, and I use those. So I've got lots of fences and shacks and old sort of bits of machinery covered in tarpaulins and crates and stuff like that, and you just scatter that around and make like a Cursed Earth sort of encampment. And
but if you look at the comics, you're not fighting in big wide open spaces.
No, yeah, it's all. I mean, most time in the comic, either Mega City 1 has been completely annihilated, which seems to happen fairly often. So it's lots of ruins, or it's in a shopping mall.
Yeah.
So,
or you're in a big set of city blocks and streets join, or that kind of thing. So it's not a game you can play on an open table, but the thing that I would say is it really does reflect the genre well. It is very easy to feel like you're playing Judge Dredd, that you're in the comics. It's really good fun.
Plus, there's that lovely little rule about judges have to try and arrest people first before they can shoot them. So
that's really annoying.
Yeah.
Speaking purely from a, it's a lovely rule, but it gets really frustrating when you're sitting there going, I want to kill him, but I can't kill him. I've got to try and arrest him first, and the arrest check has a fairly limited range, obviously enough.
Yeah. So unless you get shot at, I mean, once you've been shot at, they're fair game because they've shot you. But otherwise,
law breaking, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, what we found with the game is, I don't know if it's just the way that we've played it, is we didn't do that much shooting straight on. It was all about sort of almost cat and mouse hunting down, because the players who were playing the I did it with an ape gang versus a couple of judges. They knew that as soon as they got into firefight, they were going to pretty much lose. So they tried to get into a position where they could attack in quickly, but stay out of the arrest range. So there was lots of cat and mouse hunting around, trying to wait for one judge to be, we had one judge covering the other judge, so one would move forward.
Yeah. I was about to say, scarily enough, fire and movement tactics actually work.
Yeah. And
it's kind of fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, tactically it really worked. And I put one guy on top of a big building with a laser rifle, trying to snipe. But as soon as he does that, he's open to be arrested, so he can then be shot at. So they move in and they take him out. So it's quite tactical in the way that you have to sort of play the game. So it isn't just a standard slugfest, isn't it, Mike? It's and the close combat rules are nice as well.
Close combat rules, yes, we should explain those. Essentially, you have, if you noted when I rattled off the stats, you have melee dice and you have a melee score, and this basically works in a similar way to fire combat. You roll 1 dice for every melee dice you have. You add your melee score to each dice. Your opponent does the same. And if one of you, whoever rolls the higher, so for example, if I roll 3 melee dice and I end up with scores of 9, 10, 11, and you roll an 8 and a 10, then I've got 1 score which tops all of yours, and that one counts for damage. Conversely, if you'd rolled a 13, then your 13 will be the one that actually did damage. So it's quite fun like that. It's, again, there are skill trees, which we should also mention. As you go up levels, you can acquire more talents, and these have a skill tree system. If you're familiar with things like, the Civilization game and a few others that have similar things, you start out, for example, if you want, you can. So I'm just flicking through to the right place here in the rules. Say, for example, if there's a skill tree for there's one called Gunslinger, and your first skill is Accurate, which allows you to re-roll a miss on any weapon with just 1 shooting dice, and then from that you can take any. There are 3 skills in the next level, which are things like Crack Shot, which allows you -1 on your AP, so it'll make you 1 more likely to damage someone, and so on and so forth. And some of the trees are single skills or 2 skills. Some of them are 4 levels deep, and they do allow you to produce nicely individual characters. In that you can have a side judge who's a pyromaniac, effectively, if you like, or you can have one who specialises in teleportation, and so on and so forth, which works rather well. So it does allow you to individualise your characters. If you're playing a campaign, you can work up through the levels and actually have characters who are very, very different. There's a martial artist tree, which makes close combat very interesting. There's a sniper tree. There's a couple of influence trees. There's some There's quite a few judge-only trees, and so on and so forth.
As far as you talked several times about the campaign system. Now, one assumes, as far as these games go, that effectively you have a number of different scenarios. And then when it comes to a campaign system, it's essentially linking scenarios together. And you have pre- and post-game phases.
Essentially, you will get experience for surviving the scenario, you get an experience point for surviving the scenario, an experience point completing your objective, that's for each of your heroes, and experience points for the level of anyone you kill. So if I kill a 2nd level character, I'll get 2 experience for that. And then you're going up a level at first to second is 2 points, 2nd to 3rd is 2 points, 3rd to 4th is another 3s, 4th to 5th is another 4, 5th to 6th is another 5. You can see the pattern building here. It's the level you're going from, in terms of experience. But you can never, anything past 1 level plus 1 short of the next one, you lose. So if for some reason you're the lucky person who kills heaven knows how many, the best you can do is gain 1 level and all but 1 of the points to the next. In addition to that, you get credits, which are what buy you new characters for your force. Every character and every piece of equipment has a credits value. Typically, you start off with 500 credits, which will get you 2 or 3 level 1 characters plus some kit. And I think they're tweaking slightly exactly how many experience you get for winning a scenario, credits you get for winning a scenario, as well as the experience. But basically, that allows you to do things like buy bionics to repair long-term wounds, add more mercenaries to your force, add more heroes to your force, and so on and so forth. And what we've done is each of the forces has a campaign goal, which is unknown to the other players. It could be something as simple as, although I know it isn't, attempt to arrest at least one of every other faction where possible, and so on and so forth. And once you've completed all your campaign goals, if you're the first person to do it, you're the winner. I think in our campaign there's also a first person to level something wins anyway. But it's really it's just an excuse for chaining scenarios together, building fun forces, and gives you a bit of continuity from one game to the next.
Yeah, so how many scenarios have you got in the book then?
In the main rulebook, there are, I think, 4 or 5. Now, the main rulebook is available as a hardback. I think it's still available. I think they may have stopped selling it for now because they're in the process of reprinting it. It is available as a free PDF download.
Yeah, I think they did one limited print run because it was print on demand. And then when they moved to Warlord, they decided that they were going to completely redo the rulebook and release the Block Wars supplement with the main rulebook around Christmas time, which means that I have to buy another rulebook because I've got one of the hardback ones.
I resisted the temptation. So, scenarios. There's 1, 2, 3,
6.
4, 5. Thank you. You turn pages faster than I do, don't you? Yeah, there are 6 pages, 6 scenarios in the main rulebook, and there are probably about the same again in Block Wars. Block Wars is basically the supplement that is also currently available as a free PDF download. It adds some more forces, some more hero types. It has stats for people like Judge Anderson, Judge Dredd, Judge Giant, the Dark. I think that's for the Dark Judges. I can't remember.
Yeah, they're in there.
I think the latest edition has. I'm a version behind in my downloads. The latest version certainly has stats for the Dark Judges. It also has the vehicle rules, so you can now ride around on Lawmasters and boot people in the face as you ride past, and other fun things like that. Which kind of adds the fun.
Wasn't Block War what Mongoose ran the Kickstarter on?
Yeah. Yeah, it was to add. It wasn't to add extra figures. It was to produce the Block War supplement, and the Block War supplement has been done as a sort of live PDF, similar to how Judge Dredd was done. They had it as a live PDF and kept tweaking it until they got the final version, which they then just done a print on demand. And as I say, as they did that and sent them out, they then teamed up with Warlord and decided they're going to do a pop-up book with Block Wars included. Which is not really any hardship because I got my rule book through the Kickstarter. It was a bit annoying when I literally opened it and the day after, we're going to have a brand new copy. I thought, well, that's probably the quickest reprint I've ever seen done in my life.
Rivals even Spartan. Good grief.
Yeah.
In their defence, though, from talking to Matt Sprang on Sunday last week, it's going to be a much sexier looking book. It's been ironing out all the little kinks and what one of our players calls the really cheesy forces it's possible to produce. They've had quite a bit of playtesting. Some of the guys at our club have actually been doing some of which has been dedicated to wielding out some of the more grosser abuses of the force creation system, among other things. But essentially, one of the things Matt has said on the forums is that even if you've got the old version of the rules, you will still effectively be playing the same game. They haven't changed any of the core concepts.
No, that's good.
Okay. So, Mr. Whitaker says, just name-dropping very lightly in that last piece of conversation, you happened to have a chat with Mr. Sprang last weekend?
Yes, we ran a tournament, which sadly wasn't quite as well attended as we'd like. I think we could have probably publicised it a bit better. But this was Necropolis 2, The Return of the Dark Judges, cue suitably doom-laden music, which was barrel of laughs. We had basically a straight set of singles round robins in the morning, and then we had a really big epic battle on about 12x4 or so in the afternoon, with everybody using their forces from the tournament plus a bonus force. So the judges got an extra 300 credits worth, which was usually enough for 2 more judges. The bad guys all got a zombie mistress and a large force of zombies, and then we handed out the heroes. So the best judges player got Dredd, the next best got Anderson, and so on. And the bad guys, the best bad guy got Judge Death, and so on and so forth. And Matt came along, brought a pile of goodies to sell and show off, including some new miniatures that nobody's seen before. There's a couple of very nice female judge with a day stick. There's a female SJS judge. He had a prototype of the Judges Mark III Pat Wagon, which is a big sort of ambulance vehicle, which you can see a picture of on my blog. So I had a bit of a chat. He's very, very happy with the new Warlord stuff. As I said earlier, it basically allows them to get on with doing the stuff they're good at, and let Warlord do the heavy lifting and the sales and the producing figures, which is the stuff they're good at. And I think both sides are very happy at this.
Yeah, it's a good move. It really is.
When I saw it announced on where it was, I thought, ooh, wasn't expecting that, but good move. Very, very good move. The other thing they're going to bring out, apparently, is a starter set, which will be Judges plus Street Punks. So it'll be a set of probably half a dozen, I assume, Judges, half a dozen assorted Street Punk characters, and a softback rulebook, which will be a great way in, I suspect.
That'd be good. They're also doing a road game, aren't they? Because they're as part of the Kickstarter, they've got a whole bunch of biker gangs. I think there's 4 different biker gangs, plus you've got the moped and all sorts of other vehicles. And I'm sure Matt said he wanted to have a sort of rolling road type game.
Yeah, I think that'll come much faster now they've got Warlord's ability to churn out figures rather than what they were doing before, which was apparently outsourcing to the States, wasn't it?
Yeah, they had their own distribution and manufacturing firm in Ohio. It was awful. The quality of some of the old sculpts and some of the old casting was diabolical.
Yeah.
But this stuff, I've just had a package of new Warlord produced stuff from the Kickstarter. It's great. Good metal, nicely cast, no runoffs, no flash, beautiful.
It's Warlord. They're good at what they do.
They're damn good at what they do, yeah.
And I think for all that we have, I think in past podcasts, been a little rude about Mongoose's ability to fulfill the Kickstarter, I think I'm very confident going forward that they've made a really good call here. They're in a great partnership. They can get on and do the stuff that they've got. I mean, Matt's got loads of ideas by all accounts, and they're going to be able to get on and produce those. I said the new batch of figures, he had some painted up ones on the stall, and they look lovely, really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few pops, but I've never had a problem with the speed of the Kickstarter. They've had a rough time. You can tell they've had a really rough time. I think it was far. It outsold everything that they wanted to. I think they actually over pushed themselves. They just, it's what we discussed a long time ago about the feeding frenzy of Kickstarters, and sometimes a feeding frenzy can go both sides. And I really think on the Judge Dredd one, unfortunately, Mongoose fed into it, and they were just like, they just kept releasing stuff and more stuff and more stuff and promising more and more stuff. They're just piling it onto the pledges. And I was looking and thinking, they're not going to make any money on these at all. That has taken some time, but quality of stuff I think is great.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's not terribly pricey compared to the prices you were quoting for the Godslayer stuff. The base figures seem to be about $5 a pop, which for a licensed 28mm, nicely sculpted, nicely produced figure, to be honest, it's not that bad. You'd quail at it if you were buying an entire squad of World War II infantry, but for very well sculpted character figures, I don't think it's that bad a price, particularly if you only need half a dozen of the damn things.
Yeah. That's interesting compared to the sort of prices that that Foundry was selling them for several years ago, when you were looking at almost double that even then.
I think one of the downsides is that you have got a lot of older sculpts, and some of them are really dodgy. There are some really horrible sculpts in there, but the new stuff they've had produced is really, really good. And I think, again, this is something the Warlords are going to push. I think Warlords are going to turn around and say, right, standardise, because they've never done it before. They've always gone up to a sculptor and said, go and make me a judge. So every time you get a new judge come out, he's got a slightly, the weapons are all different shapes and the helmets are all different shapes and stuff. So, I mean, they all look like judges, but there's no standardisation in there.
Yeah.
And I think that'll improve now with Warlord being in place.
And let's face it, if they are not having the headache of trying to manage duplication as well, it's going to be a lot easier for Matt to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Matt can get on with what he's good at, which is getting the rules written.
And commissioning a nice range of figures to go with it. And then just let Warlord, as I said, do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of hoping that Matt will listen to Warlord when it comes to getting figures commissioned. 'Cause I think sometimes with Mongoose in the past, they would just take anything. Anybody sent them a sort of test figure, they go, "Oh, that's nice, I'll produce it." Whereas I think Warlord themselves would turn around and go, "Okay, that's an interesting figure. Right, now go and make me one using these. This is the pistol you're going to use. This is the helmet you're going to use. Make it to this scale. Now go and make a proper one, and I'll pay you for the proper one." So I think Warlord are better at doing that.
I'll bow to your industry knowledge on that one.
I would hope that's how it goes. But I mean, you can see some of the old sculpts are really dodgy, and it didn't help with the way they were cast. But again, Warlord they have very good quality control.
So how was the Prowl tank then?
Now it's built and painted. It's looking lovely. It was a bitch to put together. Sorry.
Oh, you painted it? I haven't seen a painted version.
Have you seen the painted version? I'll send you a picture.
Go on then.
I need to varnish it, but it's been raining ever since I finished it, and it's too humid. So I'm not hitting it with a spray varnish.
Oh, don't go there. Don't go there. No, dangerous.
Especially as I need to do with like a satin varnish on it just to make it sort of pop a little bit. But yeah, it's a nice kit. A few issues that we mentioned with the striations. But yeah, it's lovely. I really don't want to give it to Darren. I really want to keep it now.
Yeah, I've seen the picture you posted on Twitter. It's very, very pretty. Nice job.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
Oh, missed that one. When was that posted?
Oh, a while ago, me.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? Here I am follow you on Twitter, and I missed a picture of a painted tank. Oh, it's terrible.
I just had a nice little parcel, so I'm very pleased. I've got more stuff to paint now. So my little box of Judge Dredd stuff is now brimming full of things.
I'm resisting temptation at the moment. My Judge force is by design and for giggles, all female, and he has a new special Justice Service female judge coming out and a female judge with nightstick. So those will be going on my force just as soon as they're out. They look very nice. I saw those on Sunday, and they look very pretty.
Yeah. Have you got the Decker and Perkins?
Yes.
Yeah, they're lovely. They're good sculpts.
But yeah. So to wrap, a lovely rule system. Does what it's designed to do, I think, is about the fairest description. It's designed to give you a game that plays like Judge Dredd, that gives you the feel of the comics, and it does it really well.
Which, to be honest, is all you can really ask of it, isn't it?
What else do you want?
Yeah. Good stuff. And yes, Mike has just sent me a picture of his tank, and yes, it is lovely. I shall have to post that on the episode. Very nice.
Shame about the wings.
I wasn't going to mention the wings.
Neither was I.
It actually looks. I mean, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know any better. Looking at the model, if you didn't, if you weren't aware of what the actual vehicle looked like, you think that looks perfectly fine.
I personally think it looks better.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
saying absolutely nothing other than to say that it really does need to get posted up with this episode so folks can see it. It's very, very nice.
It is very, very nice, and I shall, yes, indeed, I shall. Promise. Okay.
He's blushing, isn't he?
Oh, you guys.
Well, I think with that, we shall call it a day. So thank you to Mike and to Mike for joining us for this episode. I hope you've found it interesting. I mean, certainly it's, and obviously from a personal point of view, it's actually been interesting to actually sit and listen to other people talking about games for a change. As for once, they're actually playing games I haven't got.
Yeah, this is the problem with this is when I was just a humble listener, is the amount of money I used to spend as a result of you doing exactly that.
Well, it's got I mean, especially the Judge Dredd one has kind of got me interested. I mean, as you say, if it's a sort of thing that you can get away with buying a dozen figures and go from there, and especially with, like, for example, the amount of scenery I'm kind of building for things like Dead Zone and stuff like that, all sci-fi sort of scenery and what have you. That it would all kind of fit, and I'm thinking,
Which does remind me, one of the things I did forget to say is that I have signed up for the Dead Zone Kickstarter and bought some extra scenery, and I fully intend to use that with Judge Dredd because it's going to be perfect.
Yes, it does look quite nice, and yes. On that note, we will be talking about Dead Zone in about probably about a month's time, because I've got a couple of chats coming up with Jake Thornton, a bit of a teaser. So we are going to be covering that hopefully quite comprehensively. But yeah, it's one of these things that, as I say, it sounds quite interesting. As I said, 2000 AD was something I was very much aware of, because it again is being
of an age. Yes,
when it all came out, and I don't know why it was I didn't get into 2000 AD. I just didn't. And I think I mentioned on a previous show, I can't remember if it was one we actually ended up publishing or not, but over the summer, Amazon produced several of the Judge Dredd compendiums on Kindle for like a couple of quid each, and especially having just watched Dredd 3D and what have you, I suddenly thought, well, I suppose I'll go back to my childhood and have a look and see what all the fuss is about, and I'm kind of enjoying them so far. So I'm kind of thinking, yes, another game system, I suppose. But as I say, if it's a fairly minimal investment,
and it's dead easy to learn.
Yeah,
it is.
A couple of dozen figures. It's that's all you need.
Just buy one of the starter boxes. They're about 30 quid.
Or wait for the Wall of Mongoose starter box when that comes out with the new rules.
Mm.
Yes, I certainly, from the sound of things, that's probably going to be one of the best bets for somebody who's not currently in the system. As you say, I would expect that's probably coming out in time for Christmas.
Mid-November, I'm told.
Mid-November. Oh, right, okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, well, thanks both for joining me. And as I say, I hope you've found it interesting and useful as always. And we'll be back soon with another episode. I'm just trying to think at the moment what we've got coming up. I've actually got quite a few interviews coming up. We're talking to people like Stuart McCorkindale about Dead Man's Hand and what's going on at Great Escape. As I say, we've got several chats with Jake Thornton planned on everything that's going on with him at the moment. He's been a very busy boy over the summer. Just a little bit, including a teaser. We are at one point in the not too distant future going to be talking about Mars Attacks. So if you're interested in Mars Attacks, that's one to catch up with. And then we've got things like Mike Hobbs and I are planning on doing things like Tomorrow's War and stuff like this. And actually, teaser for you, Mike, I was chatting with Sean Carpenter from Ambush Alley the other day. Funny enough, he Skyped me and said, "Can I just ask you a question?" Because he kind of caught me he caught me on Skype late at night. They're doing a new version of Ambush Z.
Oh,
yeah. Ooh, yes. It's and this time it's not just Special Forces versus zombies. It's survivors, the whole hog.
So it's time to get out those boxes of War Games Factory zombies and apocalypse survivors and start painting. Indeed.
And all being well, I'm going to catch up with Sean
sometime in November, when he's got a bit more to talk about. So, lots of stuff going on in the background. Mike Hobbs has desperately been trying to get me organised by sending things out like spreadsheets for show schedules and stuff. I mean,
what can I say?
Well, put it this way: at the moment, it's working, but
but we are only 2 episodes in.
Indeed, indeed. Let's see where we are at Christmas, and we'll see if it's a success or not. And then obviously we've got loads of other stuff planned. So all being well, we'll have lots of stuff to listen to before Christmas, and at this point, well into next year. So there you go. So until next time, as always,
good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
You guys really had to go there, didn't you?
Oh,
You've
yeah.
heard of the 2 Bonnies, this is the 2 Mikes. And on that note, we'll bid you a fond farewell, happy gaming, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you want to know more about Meeples and Miniatures, there are several things you can do. First of all, you can visit the website at www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. If you want to contact the show at all, you can email me at neil@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. You can follow the show on Twitter. Simply look for M&M Podcast, or click the follow us on Twitter button from the website. We also have a group on Facebook. That's the Meeples and Miniatures Podcast Fan Club. Again, follow the link from the website. And finally, if you want to help us to support the show, you can always donate to the podcast by clicking the PayPal button on the donate page, again found on the website. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope you've really enjoyed the show. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.